So I want to transition to the NBA for a second. So the Lakers and the Detroit Pistons rather battled at the Palace yesterday, and LeBron received his second ejection. He earned his second ejection of his 19-year career, was involved in a little skirmish and a little scuffle with the Pistons as Isaiah Stewart came in the middle of the third quarter after a free throw by Jeremy Grant. LeBron, Stewart are jostling for rebounding position, trying to box one another out. And it got a little too physical, and LeBron extended his elbow and cut kind of just below the eye of Isaiah Stewart. And blood was streaming down the side of his face. He was obviously bleeding underneath his eye. There was a stoppage. And whether or not you think, first of all, it was accidental or inadvertent, it honestly looked in the moment inadvertent and didn't seem premeditated to me. But regardless, LeBron tried to check in on him afterwards. He approached him afterwards, and that's where tempers flared. That's where Isaiah Stewart just lost his mind and began bull rushing and charging after LeBron. And he had to be restrained and subdued by his own teammates, by NBA officials, security officials. And once it seemed like he was calming down, he charged at them again 3 times. He kind of attacked the team. And first of all, LeBron in that instance, yes, he deserved to be ejected from the game in that instance. It was excessive contact above the shoulder. So no qualms about that. But there wasn't any malicious intent behind it, didn't seem to me. And so I understand why Isaiah Stewart was frustrated that he got elbowed in the face. You get elbowed in the face. I understand why you're going to be upset. But the way that it triggered him and his reaction just seemed really gratuitous to me. He was reckless. It was, quite frankly, idiotic. And I'm just thinking how I would react if I would just start bull rushing someone who I didn't think intentionally elbowed me in the face. I'd be pissed off, sure, but his reaction is going to warrant a pretty punitive response from the NBA. I don't know, beyond a fine. They're probably going to suspend him a couple of games. And to be honest, they should, because that's not a natural way that you respond to an elbow to the face. He had an opportunity to square up with LeBron when they were face-to-face a couple minutes prior. If he wanted to trade blows, that would have been the time to do it, as opposed to once everyone is grouped together and they're separated. Personally, I just don't think that would have been the time to do it. It was just a weird reaction to that altercation. And something really set him off. It was almost like a delayed response. Like in the moment, he was almost shell-shocked, I think, when LeBron approached him after it happened, that he didn't have time to put together all of his feelings and his emotions and come to grips with what just happened and who just did it, who just delivered the blow. I think by the time he realized who did it, what happened, that's when the anger began to swell. And that's when he had the reaction that he had. But it was just kind of bizarre how quickly it escalated from his perspective and how adamant he was on trying to approach LeBron and trying to approach the Lakers and aggressively pursue them. In fact, they said that Corey Joseph actually, after it looked like Isaiah Stewart exited the premises into the locker room, Corey Joseph actually went over to the Lakers side in anticipation of Stewart trying to enter into the arena once again, or enter onto the court again from the Lakers' own bench side. So the whole ejection, I understand why LeBron was ejected, and obviously Isaiah Stewart, they were both ejected. His reaction to me, though, just seemed really careless and really unnecessary. So, not to mention, it was very uncharacteristic of LeBron to engage in a tussle like this. when we think about LeBron, he's been in the NBA for 19 years. This is actually his first ejection because of legitimate unnecessary physical contact with an opponent. He was ejected only one other time in 2017 when he was part of the Cleveland Cavaliers and they were hosting the Miami Heat, and he was arguing a non-call from the ref. And he aggressively kind of stomped over to the referee to give him a piece of his mind. And he was automatically assessed 2 technicals and ejected from the game. And that was for a verbal altercation, not even for an actual physical altercation. So yesterday was the first time in his career that he was ejected because of a physical altercation that on the surface didn't appear to have malicious intent behind it. But again, very uncharacteristic for him to be involved in an event that blows up like that. I understand it's LeBron. So from Isaiah Stewart's perspective, hey, opportunity to get into a little skirmish with LeBron. That's kind of cool. He was bleeding down the side of his face, though, so I don't know how much that was really factoring into it. But the other thing about it was the Lakers were down by 12 at that point, midway through the third quarter. And the only saving grace that I can think of is the fact that they managed to actually win this game against this. Again, this is a Detroit team that obviously isn't very good. They're 4-12 on the season right now. They've got the second worst record in the Eastern Conference, the 4th worst record overall in the NBA. So I'm sure there was a lot of frustration on the Lakers side of things. How are we losing to this Detroit Pistons team? More importantly, how are we losing to this Detroit Pistons team by double digits on the road? But again, they managed to rally around one another. And Russell Westbrook was sensational down the stretch, 26 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. He was making sound decisions. Anthony Davis had a monster performance. He found himself 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, 4 steals. In fact, that one sequence at the end of the game in which he blocks Cade Cunningham, the number 1 overall pick's 3-pointer. Cunningham gets it back, tries to drive it on him to the rim. He blocks him again, stuffed him twice on the same possession. And then he ran the floor to the other end of the basket, and Russell Westbrook found him for a dunk. The effort that he showed on that sequence was tremendous. And he was great the entire night. And perhaps this can kind of light a fire, maybe light a more robust fire under this Lakers squad that can springboard them forward into a little bit of a run. We'll see. But of course, of course this happened at the Detroit Pistons. There's something about Little Caesars Arena at the Palace that just kind of invites and incites violence. Obviously, we remember the malice at the Palace back in 2004. In fact, coincidentally, this time around nearly occurred 17 years to the day. It was November 19th, 2004, that the malice at the Palace between the Indiana Pacers and Ron Artest against the Detroit Pistons and the fans in particular at the arena where that brawl ensued. Nearly 17 years to the day that took place. And just coincidentally, I mean, 2 days difference besides the 17 years. There's just something about playing in Detroit that just invites this violence at times. Can't really explain it, but that's kind of what happens. But again, hopefully the players can kind of rally around one another. They seem to echo that same sentiment that maybe this was an opportunity for them to come together and grow as a team, face a little adversity as a team, and it can launch them forward and catapult them onto this run. Hopefully that happens. I would certainly love to see that.